Well, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be. Welcome to Zyxel and Tech Talk this week. Today we'll be covering some monthly partner program and a partner product introduction. My name is Tri Wynn. I am a product manager here at Zyxel. If you are a new partner, I want to see if you raise your hands. If you're new to Zyxel and have just wanted to jump in and get some ideas about who we are and what we have. Okay, thank you very much. Also, just to check on the audio as well, if you can hear me just fine, just also raise your hand as well, so I can know that everything seems to be okay. Thank you, Brett, George, Dustin, appreciate it. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. It seems like every time that we do a partner update, more and more slides gets to be added to it, and so there's a lot to cover. If you are a partner with us and just wanting to get to know kind of a high level of things across the major product lines that we offer here at Zyxel, we're looking forward to doing that. So we also want it to be an interactive as well. So I like to be interactive. So if you want to use the Q&A section at any point in time to send me a message that I can answer in line, or you can also use the chat as well to do that. And so let's just jump right on in. Just a quick introduction again. I've been here at Zyxel now. It's going on almost 17 years now at Zyxel. So quite a long time being here, but seeing a lot of the different things that have been happening. So over half the time that Zyxel's been around, we've been around for 30 years, since 1989, actually a couple years after beyond that. So actually 32 years now in networking, 100 million devices making connections worldwide with 600 employees worldwide as well. We serve 150 different markets. 700,000 businesses work smarter with Zyxel solutions. We are internationally recognized for our innovation and our design, with a lot of awards that go across the board for all different types of product lines. We are also certified with ICSA, which is an entity of Verizon that does interoperability testing to making sure that security things like VPN and firewall functionalities follow a strict standard and interoperability, meaning that we can work with other products that are also ICSA certified for connectivity. So we've been doing that for the last 20 years. We're one of the few that have been recognized for that. We are also solutions driven by our clients' needs. So that's the main difference. A lot of that's a big value add for us working with Zyxel, is that you as partners have direct access to providing us ideas, providing us feedback, bug fixes or anything like that. We have our own R&D resources and R&D who make the software both overseas and also locally in California. That's where we're based, Anaheim, California. We also have our some R&D resources in the San Jose area as well. But we look to provide solutions to customers, being able to provide end-to-end ecosystems and products. And so any new product ideas that you may have, even when you're listening to the market, you guys are our ears to the field. So your feedback is very valuable to us into providing, hey, what product directions do we go? What kind of feature sets? How do we make your lives as partners and lives of your customers easier from a networking standpoint? So that's where we come into play. We have provide a comprehensive portfolio, end-to-end network solutions, security appliances, wireless solutions, internet connectivity with Ethernet, with and without fiber, PoE, gateway access for like hotspot management, routers, business gateways, and then being able to manage it in a standalone mode through CLI, through unmanaged, or even through the cloud. So we have a kind of all-encompassing, depending on what you need, what your business model is. Zyxel has a solution for that. So one takeaway from it as a partner or as a new partner that I like to say is, if there's anything that's connected to a network, I want you to think, what does Zyxel have that can fulfill that or can help me in those situations? And most likely than not, we have something that will fulfill that, because we do have such a wide range of products and solutions that are available to you. So I wanted to jump in one of the major categories of our product line. It's been one of our bread and butters, and one of the big difficulties, I guess, or where partners can really add value, because it does take some expertise, and that's network security. And network security really relies on partners like yourself to become the experts, or become at least knowledgeable on what is out there, the threats, and why you need protection on the network, and protecting your business, but also your customer's business as well, making a more effective more productivity kind of solution for those customers to protect those networks, because we don't want to be down. So we provide network security that packs a punch: speed, efficiency, defense to protecting your business networks and your customers' networks, creating smarter protection in protecting all of their networks using a lot of different functionalities. So let's take a look at some statistics. 54% of small businesses think that they're too small for a cyber attack. And that's pretty common. And that most people don't think that it's going to affect me. I'm connected to the internet, but it's really those big companies that I see on the news that are the ones that are going to get data breached or hit with ransomware. 47% of small businesses have no understanding on how to protect themselves against cyber attacks at all. So that's another big issue, again, where you can come into play as partners. 60% of small businesses that are victims of cyber attacks go out of business within 6 months. Because if you look at the cost, on average, small businesses will have to spend almost $1 million to restore normal business in the wake of an attack. So a lot of times, if it's that's ransomware, or even if it takes down servers, computers, and just having to go through the process, some of these small businesses will have to deal, on a financial standpoint, a really big deficit. 43% of breach victims are actually small businesses themselves. So even though they think they are not, they actually are. So almost half of them are small businesses. And 424% increase in small business cyber attacks just last year. So there's a lot of continual attack, a lot of pressure, and a lot of education that comes into providing why small businesses need to be protected, because every 39 seconds there's some sort of hacker attack that happens. 54% of small businesses don't have a plan in place for reacting to cyber attacks. So even if they think they do, even more than half of them don't even have anything in place to be able to manage that, or maybe even to know that they are even being attacked. So really, it's a matter of time. That whole mentality of that it won't happen to me, puts it on not on their radar. But a lot of these malware, a lot of the attacks that are happening out there, they pretty much go after anybody who's available. So as long as your network is exposed, there could be issues there that provides there. George says, can we get these slides? Or yeah, we can get these. We can give, yeah, I can get these slides to you guys, so you can have it for your customers, and even in the documentation. So we'll provide that to you, George, after that. More applications. Also, George, if you want to send me an email at try@zyxel.com, I will take care of that as well. We'll work with our marketing on that. And as more and more applications are out there, there's an increased need in speed. Businesses want to use the cloud for applications. They are pushing, different services, your email, your file share, your DNS, everything is going into the cloud through Amazon, through Microsoft, and they're being hosted there. So we're really pushing the limits of what the hardware platform has to do. So we see this as a very big upgrade cycle for the firewall in today's day and age, especially users having to use 3 or 4 different devices. Now they're having to do voice, video, data applications, even remote, right? We're all remote working, or a lot of us are doing that. I've been into the office now 3 times in the last year. I just went back yesterday just because I was nearby, and so I stopped into the office to pick up some more stuff. But that's the reality that we currently live in, and being able to do that productivity, still have productivity, be able to do these things remotely, just puts a strain even more on the local firewalls that you have connected back to your offices as well. So ISPs are also offering higher speeds. You're seeing now 100 megabits to even gigabit speeds of internet connectivity. It's really easy for the customer to find out, when they're using your firewall today, to be able to do just a quick speed test and find out what is their speed. And if it's not the advertised speed that you have provided for them, or your service provider has or the service provider has for them, they will immediately question it. And it's going to be pointed the finger at the firewall or at the network itself for that, that lack of speed. So how do we deal with all of that, especially in the security space? How do we deal with all the different functionalities that you have to manage and still maintain those speeds? So some of the security features that are offered within our product lines are very sophisticated. And again, I always tell my partners and customers that with security, it can be as simple as you need it, or as complex of an application as you need it as well. It's very flexible. We have products that kind of fulfill all those different types of applications, whether you're in hospitality, in retail, in healthcare, in finance, whatever it may be. We have like solutions and things that will help with that. But in general, some of the features that come with security is like VPN high availability, again with remote access, being able to make sure that that connectivity to the office or even between offices are always interconnected, being able, even when an internet connection goes down, it can load balance your VPN to another connection. WAN load balancing, being able to load balance between multiple connections, because if your internet connection is down, right, what do? Well, we can't be productive. I mean, especially in maybe in an office environment where people are at the office. When we were back in the office, when our internet connection went down, immediately everybody got up and was like, "Okay, let's see who I can talk to. I might as well catch up on some cooler talk, while the internet's down, because really productivity just goes down to zero." Multi-WAN load balancing, even with broadband support capabilities, virtual tunnel interfacing to help with VPN and interconnectivity, things like secure SSL VPN connectivity, being able to use your browser to make connections remotely on an easy level, using IPsec, using L2TP, which is available in your browsers, easy VPN wizards to help you configure those remote connectivities, and also using robust, secure SHA-2 VPN encryption modes. So really trying to simplify your remote access for your customers, and also how you deploy those remote customers or the remote employees to be able to connect back to those offices. So you can provide with our solutions this whole remote work, teleworking scenario through multiple different applications in different tablets or different devices in the ecosystem, all at the same time. We provide things like antivirus, malware blocking, content filtering, which is really important to be able to control. That's one of the things that our people are worried about today with the remote worker. And IT managers are like, well, how do I control, or how do I mitigate, security issues when a remote user is using their internet connection at home? How do I put something either into their office, or how do I manage the VPN tunnel so that they can be, when they're using their computers for work, or their work computers and their laptops, how do they manage the policies that are required, right, of the company? How do I control internet access, or how do I control which content, which web pages the employees can go to? And then also what applications, being able to identify at the layer 7 level what kind of applications are being used. Are they using, Netflix? Are they using, any kind of peer-to-peer downloading, whatever it may be, to be able to identify that and then control it, right? You'll be able to do that even through the VPN tunnel as well. So finding solutions to be able to mitigate and again control the security, potential security issues in a home network, especially in the home. Most of the time a home network is just wide open, and so if it has been compromised, you don't want that compromised network to then flow through and be able to have access then to maybe corporate side network, right? For that kind of thing. Things like geo IP enforcement, being able to block traffic or be able to control traffic based on the location of the traffic itself. So whether what country it comes from, or even regional areas. Sandboxing and machine learning, being able to identify even unknown threats using AI and cloud sandboxing technology, which I'll cover a little bit later. Botnet malware blocking, all these things, again, giving access to hackers and to malware providers. Intrusion prevention and detection, being able to mitigate the remote access of malware into the network, and be able to also filter based on reputations of a data, using a database to find out what IP addresses are reputable, or maybe some sites or addresses have been compromised, and so we can utilize that to mitigate cyber attacks. We have integrated Wi-Fi controllers in our security appliance, meaning you can use our access points and use the firewall itself to do the provisioning, the configuration of those access points. And then also hotspot management. We find a lot of customers who want to provide a guest network access either within the home or within the business, right? If you have a coffee shop that wants a private network that's secured, and then have a guest network access that provides free network access with terms of service, being able to provide a ticket printer for even integrated access via a coupon code or a username password that's automatically generated through a printer. So we have a lot of these add-ons and functionalities, like I said, that really add value to the whole security line. Not just doing network security, simple SPI firewall, but doing the full layer 7 scanning of a full-on enterprise type class firewall. Link aggregation, high availability, SSL packet inspection, and radius integration, again, just for higher end applications to unify your connectivity, your access for remote users, or for being able to put down policies for specific users. So integration with Active Directory just allows for your sales managers to have a certain type of access, your sales reps to have a certain access, your tech support to have certain access, and be able to control those policies through the firewall itself. So we look to provide simplicity, flexibility, and the ultimate in terms of performance and protection in our products. So some of the differences here, I'll provide again the slides for it, but for simplicity's sake, VPN series is what provides the SPI firewall and your VPN connectivity. Usg Flex, which is what I'll cover a little bit more in, that's our kind of our moving forward is our bread and butter. That's our probably our main product line that a lot of people will be focused on, and that provides all of your UTM functionalities and VPN. And then the Ultimate series, which is our ATP, that's our flagship product line, that provides all the UTM functions as well as sandboxing, IP reputation filter, and DNS reputation filter blocking as well, and being able to scan those both on a signature base and also in the cloud. Is Azure Active Directory included in the Active Directory section? I will have to check, Dustin, on that integration. We just know that Active Directory in general for Microsoft works. So it's just using radius authentication in a sense. So it should be okay. So we could check with our tech support on that. So definitely send me a message. I'll check with our tech support on that integration there. So there's a lot of different functions that come into play. So depending on what your customer needs, really you probably would start at the USG level, the Usg Flex. And if they don't need all the UTM functions, you have the choice of just going down to the VPN series. But if you like that flexibility, maybe later on you can upsell to the customer UTM functions. You could buy just the hardware only, and it will function much like the VPN series and do all the VPN functionalities and doing that hotspot management, all those kinds of things in the Usg Flex. And then maybe down the line, you can give them the 30-day trial, see what they like on the UTM functionalities, and then maybe have them come on board later on. But of course, there's cost benefits when you do buy the 1-year license bundled together with those. So it's definitely encouraged for you to move to that and encourage those customers to do that. So the VPN series is focused on VPN and firewall functionalities and not UTM. It does have some SD-WAN capabilities for dynamic path selection, WAN optimization, just if you're looking for those kinds of applications. Device high availability is available here with content filtering. So just some basic scanning that's not doing full UTM. Content filtering is just looking at a database to compare the categorizations, and based on your categories that you allow, like social media or gambling or anything like that, you can choose to block that type of content. In the flexibility, like I mentioned before, is our Usg Flex. It has enhanced UTM, high performance UTM to provide high speed UTM performance for those high connectivity and still maintain a high level of security. It still has a built-in wireless controller, flexible management that's coming also to the cloud in about a month. So the Usg Flex will be going to Nebula in about a month's time. Device high availability, again, available in the higher product models. Ultimate series with our ATP, this is kind of the best in class with all the other UTM features that you saw before, as well as sandboxing capabilities using AI to detect and identify new threats before signatures are technically available. So enhanced UTM series as well. So it gives you both a cloud scanning mechanism and a signature base for kind of double the protection, and URL threat filters. So we're able to base different URLs and IP addresses, and also detect against command and control servers. So calling home type applications that maybe have taken over a device or taken over the network. So introducing our Usg Flex is one of our newest products that we've released last year. We provide and partner up with some of the leading specialists out there. McAfee, Webroot, Lastline, Trend Micro, and Bitdefender all contribute to maybe different aspects of the signature, or into the scan capabilities, or the cloud databases that we use, or within the cloud AI itself. So Express Mode comes in our products, our Usg Flex and ATP. And Express Mode uses a cloud query, and it can significantly increase performance of UTM scanning, because it is using basically a hash check in on the cloud. So it's different than actually doing a stream-based scan on the file itself as it passes through the network. So it's able to hash scan and check that very quickly, and be able to use the cloud and the ever-evolving cloud database for its intelligence. Now, the Usg Flex has the option of choosing either Express Mode, which you'll see in a little bit on how the performance can increase, or they could still maintain the stream mode for scanning. Now, there's cost and benefits, right? There's pros and cons. You have to have internet connectivity in order to do a cloud query. So it can't, these firewalls in a cloud cannot, cannot scan things if they're not connected to the internet. The ATP, though, allows for you to do both the traditional scan mode, which is the stream mode, and also the Express Cloud Query. So it can provide both options there at the same time, because it is our flagship. But in general, from the previous platform, our USG, we have seen up to a 500% increase in performance. And this is just on the UTM and not counting the cloud query mode. So we're just talking straight up firewall and UTM numbers on the data sheets on our USG 40s, going to our USG Flex 100 models, and the 60 to the 200s, and the 110s to the 500s. So we're seeing just an overall increase because of the hardware platform, and also the effectiveness. Now, when you're using our cloud query, the throughput numbers here are even greater than that. So just keep that in mind if you have some high bandwidth, high necessity, scan applications. Now, when you're looking at our products, though, make sure you understand what is going on with these numbers. These numbers are theoretical, fastest possible, max theoretical numbers, using industry standards on testing. That means multiple sessions, multiple devices, are being emulated with the largest packet size, and that's not indicative of what real traffic would look like. And so the typical gauge that we use to kind of figure out which model will fit for your internet connectivity is, first question, do they need UTM? If they don't need UTM and you don't care for UTM, you just want the basic like SPI firewall capabilities, then you can just look at the SPI throughput and the VPN throughput, and use those numbers as your baseline. Now, the real number of those numbers, the real throughput that you'll see on a speed test typically would be about 50 to 60% of that. So you want to give, put that into perspective when you're pricing out your firewalls. So let's just say USG Flex 100 that we have here. Let me throw up my laser pointer here. This has a VPN throughput of 270 megabits. So that's probably good for about 150 megabits of VPN throughput. SPI firewall, this would be probably about a 500 megabit connection, would be perfectly fine for that. Now, if your customer says, I need UTM, I want the full scan capability. So you look at the worst case scenario, which is AV and IDP. That's the most intensive scanning application that's out there. It's rated at 360 megabits per second. So anywhere between 180 to 200 megabits connections will probably be good for this kind of firewall. So you just have to look at those numbers and choose appropriately for the connection. And unfortunately, the internet speeds have basically moved on very quickly compared to a lot of firewalls. So you may have some instances where you do have to get a much higher firewall because they have such a higher speed for that. But in general, A lot of these products should fulfill that. So we have our USG 100, our 200. Those are our most popular ones, along with our USG Flex 500, because the UTM throughput here is 800 megabits, which probably will fulfill like a half gig, 500 megabits about of throughput connectivity. So just again, keep in mind that we just launched also our USG Flex 700 with that as well, and with all the different interfaces. And also the firewalls come with a fiber interface as well. So if you have some applications or maybe even fiber to the office type connectivity, they can literally terminate the fiber itself to the firewall and use that as a WAN connection. And we want to offer flexibility. So if you are a current USG product customer, then we have ways for you to migrate from our USG to our USG Flex. And we want to make it easy as possible. Dustin asks, is there an SFP plus for our UTM options? Currently, only our USG 2200 series has a 10 gig uplink for that. It's because there's nothing in the kind of, I say, small, affordable market that has 10 gig firewall capabilities going through it. Now, you have the ability to do some link aggregation to kind of get an increase in throughput if you're going from like your LAN connections. But most of the time, the 10 gig network can exist within the local LAN. So you have services and things within your local network. So you have 10 gig, between switches that go to your different access points at the edge, right? So we have edge switches that are connected 10 gig. But typically going back to then the firewall going to the internet, because a lot of the speeds on the internet really kind of maxes out at like 1 gig. It usually it's harder to find multi-gig coming up yet, or readily available, that these firewalls are just made for like 1 gig type connections or less. So it doesn't have typically a 10 gig uplink option directly into it, because we're not passing 10 gigs worth of traffic to scan through the firewall itself. So unfortunately, we don't have anything that's of that size. If you have applications that are that size, then definitely you would have to use a different firewall for that. But the 2200 does have that 10 gig uplink. USG 2200, but that's not part of our Flex series. We haven't seen yet the demand on the 10 gig side of it, because again, the WAN speeds is your limiting factor. And so it won't be able to push past, a lot of times that 1 gig yet. Now, if the networks start, obviously migrating to, if you start seeing 10 gig WAN connection services, and that becomes more prevalent in the business sector, then of course the hardware is going to move along with that. But right now, 10 gig in a firewall on a WAN speed is going to be very expensive. You have to get a very high-end model to be able to push multi-gig UTM services through it. But with USG, if you have customers who already have USGs now, we want to make the migration process easy and flexible. A lot of times in the past, people had to, they wanted to wait till the very last moment when their services would expire before they made the change into the new hardware platform. So we wanted to make it so that it was easy for a customer and for you as a partner to convince your customers or move them as soon as you want, right? As soon as possible, whenever you decide to. Let's say, for example, your current customer has a USG that has 7 months of content filtering left, 4 months of IDP, 2 months of malware, email security. So different time frames that, so this is kind of like a worst case scenario where every service is at a different time frame. So what we do is we will normalize it. You basically go into my Zyxel and you can choose and transfer the services from an existing USG to your new USG Flex. And what we'll do is we will normalize the services. So all the services that you are moving actually goes to the greatest number. So the largest remaining period, which in this case is 7 months on the web filtering. So all the services will be extended to 7 months. So that's if you just bought the hardware platform, hardware only, and you just wanted the customer to directly transfer. Now, if you convince the customer, and we will be running some promotions as well that allow for your customers to move and migrate to the USG Flex and give them, a cost benefit to get the new hardware and also these services, and we will add on to it on, based on what's left as well. So in a case of a bundled hardware, if they bought a USG Flex that had already 1 years of services on it, then we will add on that 7 months from the previous USG to this existing USG Flex. So again, they're not losing any services or time frames. If in fact they're probably benefiting from it and getting 19 months in this example of UTM services on their new USG Flex bundle. So that's how we make the transfer. Again, make it easier for people, and then make it easier for partners to transfer customers whenever they can convince them, or maybe it's on a good time frame or time period or billing period to help them do that. So some of the products that we'll be migrating will be our NSG series. Our NSG series will, because USG Flex is going to Nebula, our Nebula only gateways will be migrating over to the equivalent USG Flex models. So you can see here NSGs going to the right side, and the different benefits that you'll have. You'll get the benefits of the speed and throughput and the UTM throughputs as compared to the NSGs. So you can see here, like NSG 100, the SPI was only 450 and 90 for UTM. When moving to the new model, you'll have 1,000 megabits and also 380 megabits on the UTM. So you can see a fairly good increase in that. So you get the higher speeds, but then also the cloud Nebula control. On the USG series, it will also move. So our USG 40s, 60s, 110, 210, 310, etc. will be moving to these models as you see on the right. Currently, though, we don't have a USG Flex 800 yet. And so once we have that available, then there'll be a USG Flex down here that will manage those speeds. But until then, the ATP 800 will fulfill the gap of our USG 1100 and 1900 series, both on performance of UTM and SPI firewall. So we have this actually in our product page in our website that kind of tells you the migration path when you use our configuration tool. So there's a migration configuration. So you can migrate configurations from a USG 40 and convert it basically into a USG Flex 100. Now, keep in mind too, as partners, I know sometimes it's hard to remember, well, which one is which. On the packaging itself, on also the online information, USG Flex 100 on the belly label will also say USG 40 version 2. So there will be a V2 labeling that will help you again, and also help your customers, those who are transitioning from USG 40. You can tell them the USG Flex 100 is also the USG 40 version 2, again, to help mitigate the learning curve of like, well, I don't know about, or I don't trust this newer model, like I don't have any experience with it, because it's coming from the same family, coming from the same software functionality as our USG 40. Making it a version 2 makes it a lot more acceptable, I think, for customers and for partners to be able to migrate customers over. So hopefully that will help. You want to use also myzyxel.com to do your service registration, to do your transfer. So if you already have customers that are on USGs, you already know of this. You can monitor expiration dates for your customers' devices. You want to be able to use reseller view. So there should be, when you log into MyZyxel, there should be a link at the very top banner somewhere that says request for reseller view. That gives you not only access to the marketplace, we will then register you if you are a partner to the marketplace, partner program pricing. So if you want to get your partner discounts while using marketplace, you get that. We get that activated for you. Also with reseller view, you get visibility into the different customers that you want to manage or that you're managing. So you get to see when their expiration dates are, and then be able to apply licenses or take actions as necessary. So the USG models in USG Flex are ATPs, our VPN series. They are AWS and Microsoft Azure certified. So we're only one of 7 brands in the world that has that distinction to be able to work both and be approved for both AWS and Azure. So really good accomplishment there. Now, I wanted to talk about some of our ATP series and how our ATP and how cloud sandboxing goes beyond the conventional type of applications. So conventional usually has to use a signature. The signatures are there to detect whether things are good, whether they are bad. But the problem is the gray area when you don't know for sure, like, is it really good or is it just suspicious? So you have to use sandboxing and AI to manage that more efficiently. So we're able to conquer unknown security threats, being able to find sophisticated or new types of variants of malware and be able to take some action, be able to detect it and be able to do something about it. So we can actually check and find out unknown files, and using our cloud intelligence ecosystem, we're able to update these databases. We are able to mitigate future future attacks of basically of that same signature. And so the ATP employs that type of AI and machine learning to get better over time. So the more things it detects, the stronger the database gets. So again, over time, it becomes smarter. We're able to conquer unknown security threats by taking something and throwing it into a sandbox in the cloud, so that where we emulate it, we see kind of its patterns, see what it's trying to do. Is it making connection? Is it trying to make connections? So we see that all in an enclosed sandbox and make some evaluation and identify it if it's a malicious attack or not, and then provide some sort of intelligence to that, and then create signatures based on that, and provide it to anything that uses it. So any devices that are connected to our cloud solution will be protected by that virus or by that malware, moving forward. So there's always a way to get stronger. So our ATP series can consist of similar model numbers and positioning like our USG Flex. We try to make it easy for customers. If you have a customer who's positioned at, let's say, a USG Flex 200, if you want to go with a sandboxing capable device, then you just move up to the ATP 200, right? So we try to keep it as straightforward on the positioning and model naming convention as possible. So that really makes it easy for you to figure out. And again, it's all based on throughput performance of our UTM and our SPI firewall. Now, we also have a solution called Secu Reporter. This is a cloud reporting system. If you're not using our Nebula solution, this gives us reporting. It's basically like an SNMP, a cloud SNMP, to give you threats, information, bandwidth control, be able to give you reporting, analysis, alerting with customized reports. Things like that to be able to give to your customer. And this is one of those values where you can, a lot of your customers, they say, well, I don't know if it's worth, paying monthly or paying yearly subscriptions for a UTM if I don't know if it's even protecting, right? It's kind of like insurance or, something, an alarm system. If you didn't have any feedback from it, then how do you know it's really protecting? So this, a Secu Reporter, allows for you to make a custom report that you can send out to your customers every month and says, okay, here's all the bandwidth you've used. Here are your top clients. Here are all the websites that they've gone to, the employees, any kind of threats that were blocked. You have that all in a summary report. So again, that just gives it a good value, and usually our partners will provide that with the invoice, right? So it just, again, sells itself through that. So I did mention cloud services, so I wanted to cover our Nebula platform. It is, if you are not currently like a managed service provider or looking at becoming kind of more of a managed service provider, a Nebula is great for you. Now, even if you're a seasoned management solution provider, this could also still be a viable solution for you to add on to your portfolio, because it provides hassle-free network management. So Nebula is our cloud solution, providing a full network solution for wireless, for gateways, for switch networking, and providing a lot of different features. Being able to set it up without even unboxing, especially in today's world, is all about contactless, anything contactless delivery, and so you can actually do contactless installation of a network. Now, you could literally provide a cookie cutter box, and an installation kit that gets delivered to the customer, and you can even, without even opening the box, be able to scan the QR code and add that to that customer site. So just imagine if you had a doctor's office and you had to ship off a switch, a gateway, an access point. You can literally scan in those three devices, say it goes to dental office number 1, and ship that off to them. And There's some basic information there that says, okay, plug your WAN connection with this blue cord into your modem internet connection. Plug the switch into your gateway on port number 1. Plug the access point from into port number 1 on the switch, right? So you can have some very basic installation and have that already pre-configured in the device into the cloud. So setup can happen within minutes, because once it gets online, you don't need any additional hardware. It will call home to the Nebula cloud and say, hey, here I am, who do I belong to, and assign the configuration that's there for them, and download any firmwares that are required. And so it can get up and going very quickly. There's no additional hardware or software, just the cloud solution, and the devices themselves, because all of the agents and all the communications that it does securely is within the device itself and into the cloud. And because it's in the cloud, you can access it anywhere, anytime. Be able to use the internet to connect to through a mobile device, through a tablet, through a laptop, whatever it may be, to get access to it. We also have a mobile app as well to give you some information, a dashboard to look through the different sites and to be able to control certain aspects of it. And again, just being able to access anywhere gives you great visibility, and especially in a break fix scenario, you would know when something is not working or down before the customer probably even realizes it. So you can manage all of your clients in a single pane of glass as well. So Nebula is designed for like a managed service provider, or as a customer who has multiple customers, right? So a partner that has multiple customers, you can manage them in different organizations, and each organization can have their own site. And then you can use the dashboard to find out, hey, let's take a look at the overall organizational health. Let's see the AP statuses, how much power is being used, what are the top clients usage and websites that they've gone to, or different services that they've gone to. You're able to check that out on the widgets and on these applications on the dashboard. So you can drill into an organization. You can then drill into each individual site for that. So the sites are really like, you have, let's say, retail customer number 1, and they have like 10 different, retail locations. You can have like store 1, store 2, store 3, store 4, all underneath that organization. And then again, that multi-site capability. You can see all the different connected devices. This gives you visibility as a managed service provider, or as even if you're just providing kind of break fix scenarios, especially for Wi-Fi. I think this is the most beneficial, because Wi-Fi, it's hard to see. It's hard to see, what the current situation is for the different clients. What are the signal strengths? So with Nebula, you're able to see the DB signal strength of these customers. So you can say, well, I can see that your iPhone is getting really poor signal. It's connected to this access point. Where are you currently physically located? It could be that it can provide you information to deploy another access point into that coverage area, right? So a lot of things can help you there. You can see the network information on the switch level, to see the power usage, to see where things, how the traffic is moving. You're able to control the ports on the PoE as well. If you want to reboot a port, let's say there's an access point or even an IP camera or some sort of device that needs maybe power cycling, you can do that through the PoE switch and be able to reboot that, and be able to troubleshoot as well, to be able to see, hey, is it broken, the connection between the switch port and the device itself. You can do pings through it, to get more troubleshooting stuff. And of course, these options that I just mentioned, they're free. And so there's a free cloud version that we're offering through Nebula as a basic level. But what we want you to do is be able to have the flexible cloud in what we call Nebula Flex. And then we offer two things: Nebula Flex, which is kind of the standalone, and the Nebula Flex Pro. And the Pro model is a yearly subscription, basically per device, per access point, per switch, per gateway, and that allows for you to have access to that Nebula control, but give you a more comprehensive things like site cloning, things like different types of technologies that are different feature functions, a different actual monitoring, alerting, longer logs, are all available in that Pro series. So you want to get to the Pro so that you have access to those tools, especially if you're a managed service provider. Things like being able to visualize your network. This is part of kind of things that are part of the Pro Pack feature. It will auto detect where things are plugged in and give you kind of a map of how things are connected. Features like if you're doing IPTV, being able to have reporting to get insights on the usages of the channels that are there, controlling the IGMP, automatically being able to detect how traffic is moving and make optimized changes, be able to monitor those channels, report different options in there. For example, here you can do the reporting for IPTV, and see and provide to your maybe hospitality customer what channels are most watched, insights. And so we've worked with some partners to figure out what kind of information is beneficial for them for these kinds of IPTV applications. So we're able to provide that to them. All right, so that was Nebula Cloud. And so the other product that I wanted to cover as well is our Wi-Fi, our Wi-Fi and the pain points that we deal with there. So we want to deal with, having Wi-Fi. It's probably one of the most common applications because everybody has Wi-Fi, and it's really great because you're mobile, you're not tied down to anywhere, you can just go anywhere and have connectivity. But why is it, when you have a network, I don't know how many of you've ever gone into that, but Wi-Fi could be, pretty tricky. You add more access points, but why is it not getting better? Right? That's kind of a weird thing that could happen. Dustin asked about MSP pack. The MSP pack we'll talk about. I know we have another. We've had another Nebula specific application. Sorry, webinar that covers the different changes that might be coming that are coming with the MSP pack and with Nebula licensing. So yeah, that would be for a different discussion there, Dustin. So why do these issues happen? So we got to look at some of the basics of Wi-Fi. What are the issues with Wi-Fi? Mostly, in order to achieve faster speeds today, you have to use more channels, and using more channels in a limited space means that there is more co-channel interference. Long gone are the days where you could just separate the channels and hope that you don't run into or bump into any other Wi-Fi channels. So let's take a look at how smart antenna works. So here's an example of something that is a non-smart antenna. It's just a regular type of antenna. It's providing coverage in an area, but there's some sort of interference that could be there. Let's say a microwave or something like that, and it's transmitting some sort of interference. So that could cause some collisions or cause interference in poor coverage or poor connectivity for other devices in that range network. So let's take a look at how smart antenna works. Well, smart antenna uses a technology, it's a patented technology that will look at 700 different patterns and be able to optimize how the device, how the AP listens to and communicates to the Wi-Fi client, and without having to listen to or to and also mitigate the co-channel interference that may be coming from other access points or coming from other devices. So it can do this even while a customer is roaming or moving around. It will find what is the best kind of optimal pattern. Now, co-channel interference, if you think about the analogy here, it's almost like a motorway. You only have a certain amount of lanes, and everybody is trying to compete for traffic or trying to compete with communication. And because Wi-Fi is very, it's very, serial. It's just like I talk, you talk, I talk, you talk. It causes, when multiple people are trying to talk at the same time, it causes a traffic collision, in which then you have to repeat again and just continually repeat. So the more devices that you have on a network, the more access points you have on the network, the more co-channel interference. So that's the maybe the typical case. I don't know about you, but there are many cases where I'm looking at my device on my phone and I see full 4 or 5 bars on the Wi-Fi connection, but I can't pass any traffic, right? So it's a lot of time it is co-channel interference, and that happens at like a a trade show very often, because you have so many people concentrated or so many devices concentrated in an area that there's just so much noise and traffic that you can't even communicate, even though you're just standing right there next to the access point. So the smart antenna, its goal is to increase capacity, reduce interference, provide better coverage through the technology that we have within our system using that patented technology. It's wireless and also designed for an ultimate user experience, because again, we design the hardware and the software. We're able to fine tune the hardware to work with the software for an ultimate experience, and be able to use things like shielding on the antennas, shielding on the housing itself, and to provide a higher quality product. And it's also backed by our lifetime warranty. In fact, all of our business class products are lifetime warranty on them as well. So we have a full range of access points, whether you want to use it in the cloud or in a standalone mode, or with a controller, or with our business class firewalls that have the AP controllers built in. So a lot of these can be managed there. So I'm just going to skip through it real quick, because there's a lot of just product slides. But in general, the WAC models, the 6000 series, provides you with that smart antenna technology. But if you are looking for the next generation, this is our Wi-Fi 6 portfolio, and this is probably where most of you may be ending up in the next year or two with any upgrades that you're going through to go to Wi-Fi 6. So Wi-Fi 6 provides you a higher throughput, multi-channel capabilities, higher throughputs, and better performance, because it's now can handle multiple customer signals at the same time. So we're able to use that with even smart antenna technologies to provide a comprehensive solution using Wi-Fi 6. So both in the Nebula as a standalone, or in the cloud. So you can choose how you want to manage these devices and use them that way. But with Wi-Fi 6 comes another challenge, and we'll talk about that too. You have to be able to power those higher end access points with a comparable switch. So the last topic that we'll talk about, the last product line, is our switching network. Even though it's the last on the line, it's one of the most important, I believe, because if you don't have a solid foundation within your network, a lot of things could fall apart, both on a security level, on a power budget level, and also just in general moving traffic through the network. And so some of the basics that we want to cover here: if you see a naming convention, which is uncommon now, ES just stands for an Ethernet switch. So if you see the name starts with ES, GS is our gigabit switch line. So all the ports typically are 1 gig. If you see a naming that's XS, that's our 10 gig, all ports 10 gig capable, or multi-gig. So multi-gig can include 1 gig, 2.5 gig, 5 gig, and 10 gig ports. So it's kind of a variety of that. So basically it's more than a gig. Our XGS naming means that all the ports are traditionally gigabit, but it includes some sort of 10 gig uplink, whether it be copper or it be fiber. So there's a 10 gig. So X just stands for the Roman numeral for 10. So that's where that X comes from. Let's see, a question came in was, all of our switching supports 802.1x, correct? Yes. So as long as it's a managed switch, that's a basic authentication function that we support in our switches. So they just have to be like a managed or web managed switch. Our MGS is our Metro Gigabit switch. If it ends in a P or an HP, then it means it's a PoE type device. And if it ends in F, then the switch typically is a fiber port type switch for like telco fiber applications. Switch combo ports may have that. It may show that it has 2 ports that are labeled exactly the same number. That means you can use either the copper or the fiber, but you can't use both at the same time. So just keep that in mind. We just kind of give that flexible option for that in a combo port, or if it's called a combo port. There could be SFP and SFP plus ports, which are fiber transceiver ports for gigabit or 10 gig ports. So you just have to have the appropriate transceiver to make that connection happen. Or you can use something like our direct attached cables, like our 10 gig DAC cables, we call it. And those will be able to uplink either switches or other devices that are using 10 gig SFPs. And you can stack the switches together as well using those if you have that available in our 10 gig switches. Now, PoE, we have different classes of PoE, 15.4 watts. All of our current switch line offer you the PoE Plus, which is our 802.3 AT, which is the 30 watt standard. And we have some switches that are coming out, or even a few that are already here, that offer you the 60 watt Ultra PoE 802.3 BT solution. So we have some of those, and this is one of them. This is our multi-gig type switch, which I'll cover in a little bit. So power over Ethernet is the one major application that everybody uses. It's now being used in lighting systems. It's now used for entries. It's used for cameras, for VoIP, for access points. All of those are being powered by PoE. So how is Zyxel different? We use what we call intelligent PoE or smart PoE technology to be able to manage the budget that is being used by the product. So the power supply, usually when you buy a PoE switch, there's typically like a power budget that you want to you look at, and based on that, you kind of figure out how much power do you have, or how many devices can you power up. Well, we use smart technology that allows for you to just allocate from the budget what the device actually needs or draws. So whatever it's pulling, then we'll allocate that rather than the whole classification of that. We can use PoE to do power scheduling or power cycling or scheduling. If you want to reboot your access points once a week at a hotel, or half of them at a time, you can do that and schedule that to do it at an off-peak hour. Right, we have the ability to do that. So here's some of the examples of how we allocate PoE power. So in case of a phone, let's say it's classified as a 15.4 watt. In a normal scenario, if you had 24 phones there and a 24 port switch here, in order to power it, you need 369 watts. And here we have a 375 watt budget. That's fine. But in consumption mode, it would only consume 216 watts of that budget. Now, either way, this will be fine, right, for this voice over IP. But let's say you have a more intensive device. Let's say a pan tilt zoom camera that is classified in the 30 watt range. Now, in order to power up 20 of those devices, you're going to need, in a classification mode switch, 600 watts of power. In a lot of competitors, that's what you're going to need to do in order to get 20 devices up. But because the device only consumes 16 watts, we can actually use that against the budget. So in consumption mode, or in intelligent PoE mode, we have a consumption of only 320 watts, which is under the bandwidth, under the budget that is provided by the switch. So we're able to power up more devices with our solution. So we have a wide range of different PoE devices, under 100 watts or even up to 1,000 watts of power. So depending on your needs of that. Now, our bread and butter in terms of switch line is our Nebula Flex switches. This is our GS web managed switch, the 1920 series, the 1930 series with 10 gig uplinks, and our XS 1930 series, which is our all 10 gig port with and without PoE. So being able to do multi-gig. And that's where I think our biggest growth will be in the coming years. As Wi-Fi 6 becomes more popular, becomes more available, you're going to need that switch to power it up. So 1920 series, again, fanless models in the lower end, surge protection, uplinks for fiber, either 2, 4, or 6. Technology in the cooling fan to help it not only stay cooler, but then modulate the fans as needed, so you don't have a loud, so it's really quiet operational on those switch lines. So I wanted to cover our multi-gig switch. This is one of our newer switches that we have released, mostly in response to our Wi-Fi 6 and also the demands for multi-gig. So if you already have existing Cat 5 or Cat 6 cabling, you can see from this this matrix here how much power you can push with the Ultra PoE at what distances. So if you have the Cat 5/6A, you can go at the full Ethernet length up to 10 gigs. But if you only have Cat 5/6, then you can only go 55 meters to get that 55 meters to go the 10 gig speeds. But the multi-gigs, obviously, you can get slower speeds at those distances, at lower distances. Sorry, lower speeds at the normal distances if you're using like lower quality cabling. So our 1930 series is our multi-gig switch. So it's an XS. So all the ports are capable of 10 gig, both copper and fiber, depending on the ports that you're using, but be able to, on the Ethernet ports, deliver Ultra PoE. So all 8 ports, 60 watts. So that's why this small, 8-port PoE has a budget power of 375 watts. So that's really made, again, to to power up those Wi-Fi 6 multi-gig connection access points, because some of our higher end access points actually have a 2.5 gig WAN port or uplink port, and also needs about 32 around 32 watts of power in order to power up those devices. So you need a multi-gig switch. It will still work in a traditional switch, but because of the power, the lower power, it's no longer able to maintain kind of the full speeds. So you want to make sure that you can have that. So we are also migrating our switches as well. If you're using our cloud switches, we have our new GS2220s that are available. That's part of Nebula, if you're looking for a Nebula exchange. And also our GS2210s, if you're using any of those managed switches, they're going to the 2220s that include the Nebula as well, and also network AV mode, which I didn't talk about today. But if you're interested in network AV mode, we do have some webinars specifically on network AV in our YouTube side. Now, if you are a partner or still looking at being a partner, make sure you jump in. It is free to join our partner program. You'll automatically be in our silver tier, which provides you double-digit margins by just maintaining a 6K in a 6-month period. If you want to move into our gold tier, which gives you the maximum margins through distribution, then you just have to maintain a 12K in qualifying sales in a 6-month period. We use DNH, Ingram Micro, Synnex, Wave, and Target Distribution as our distributors in our program. Now, if you have any questions, we just covered 104 slides in about 60 minutes. So again, we're able to still maintain the time frame, even though I added a bunch more slides. But thank you for being here. If you have any questions, if you want to hang out and ask me some questions, please do so now in the Q&A section. If you have questions or maybe think of things later on, you can always email me, try@zyxel.com. So it's TRI@zyxel.com, and love to hear from you. If you have any suggestions on what you want to hear about in new or different webinars, we're always doing Tech Talk webinars like every week or so. So we would love to hear your feedback on what you want to learn more about. Maybe dive deeper in our products. We have been also starting a series now where we work with our systems engineer to provide a deep dive into some of these features and functions. So best practices, how to configure them. So keep watch of those webinars as they come up, so you can sign up for them and join those, because those will really help you in how to best practice configure certain types of applications. And we just did one, I think it was last week or so. So if you want to check the recordings for that, feel free and welcome to watch those on your own time. Well, if there are no questions at this time, again, I thank you very much then for coming in and participating and finding out more about Zyxel. We look forward to being your networking ally and seeing how many projects or ways that we can help you with your business and with your customer applications and business as well. So again, my name is Tri Nguyen, and thank you for joining this Tech Talk. We'll see you again next time. Talk to you soon.